Welcome to the 2025 Esports World Cup Chess Finals. Somehow our stodgy old game made it in as an esport. Now they do have to bring their own keyboard and mouse, plus they get no time added per move. Maybe that's why it's in there. We might even get a little bit of dramatic music in this video. You'll have to let me know if you like it or lump it, but we're having fun here. 3 games to come today. We're going to have a look at Magnus Carlsen himself, world numero uno. First off, with an absolute masterpiece against Abdusattorov. Then we're looking at a crazy Hikaru, Alireza, Armageddon, Insanity. Then back to Magnus playing JKD. That's Jan, Shishtoff, Duda. Let's dive in here because first game, wrong board. Here we go. It is Nordebek Abdusattorov playing black and Magnus kicking off here with a boring old pawn game here, exchanging Carlsbad structure, pawn to c ships, and he's just playing old man chess. Big minor piece kebab there. Can't get my words out. Everyone's having too much fun. Surely you cover the pawn. No. We see the exchange of these bishops saying, please munch here. I'm then going to do this. Kick your queen and then crash through here. Better for white. Let's jump back from analysis. Both players castle. They give each other a high five. Now this one develops here. Always get your bits out. And a5. Classic pawn break when you set up this light squared structure. How many of us doing something like this? Or maybe bringing a rook, right? Well, this is how you just get nothing out of the game here. Black's absolutely fine. Something like this. Start bringing the knight around even. Just a sample line. Magnus doesn't do it. He goes this way. Anyone for a knight maneuver, he whispers. The queen hits the light square. Maybe now the knight can rotate into this c4. Or maybe you push the pawn, weaken, but gain space. In the game we see this. Now a4, gaining huge space, and Magnus says do your worst. Don't care, I'll glide on past, but not played. We just see that cannon developed, and Magnus nudges back with the queen, possibly looking to attack. Bounce here, do this, rah, rah, rah. Now we see the bishop tuck back. Not because Nordebek forgot which way his pieces are supposed to move, but he opens the eyes of this guy. Very aggressive, but before you can say crazy Uncle Kramnik, Magnus gains space. This knight supporting the pawn can't be taken. You could take en passant, and we do see it in the game. This, actually the best move. Creates a big hole here, but there's also a big hole here. Really interesting battle. Not played, we get takes, en passant, a favourite of chess players everywhere. Queen's now attacked, she moves over, and Magnus pushes on before you can say pawn push. And if you capture, well, there's a problem. You're in a pin and win, baby. That's the game. So we run back. Instead, we see the knight centralise, takes, rook takes. Magnus changes the structure and he plants this knight on c5, threatening to take this horse. If you take, well, then you set up this stunning connect 4. Never ideal. And there's pressure coming down on this b pawn soon. So not played. What to do? Don't take here. Whoops. Don't do that either. Take there and you lose a piece. So in the game, we saw knight f6. Rotating into here. No chance Nordebek's going to let Magnus swap bishop for knight. So this is how things proceeded. And now we see this exchange of prisoners. And surely Magnus just can't get anything out of this position, right? He's threatening to do some nasties on the b file. So the bishop does give itself up. Choice of how to capture. Magnus goes like this, clamping on the backwards pawn. And after this, bishop saved, rook d8. Now the queen activating. Have you ever seen a more Magnus move? Many of his fans start bleating, even old Gary there. The bishops do leave the board, or the queens rather, just checking you're listening. And this is a great maneuver, because when the pawn's attacked, It's defended by the knight, which pressures the bishop. So Magnus whispers, "Do you even rook cliff, bro?" as he protects. And now we see the very smelly f6, met by f4, expansion. The kings activate, so does the rook. Magnus drops back, curver in a check, which soon comes, but doesn't because the bishop's in the way here. Now he takes more space, and after the rook drops back, king e3, rook d8, we see it's Magnus calling the shots here because he offers an exchange. You could have actually gone for it. Drawn position, dead level. They're just shaking hands these years ago, but this doesn't happen. Magnus takes a bit more space, pawns on light squares, bishop on dark square, instructive, e5 now played, the breakthrough achieved, and just like that, Magnus starts nibbling away, gaining a bit of space and forcing black to start finding some very good defensive moves like g5 check. You either wait with the king here and it's an important space gain, or you take and still it should be roughly level. But we come back, no g5, we see rook d5. You're just holding on, but you've let Magnus invade. What you should do now is again g5 check. But pawn takes was played, or rook takes pawn rather. And the problem now is rook b8. Looks like you've just swapped pawn for pawn, but the king is in trouble. Now we see pawn g5. Not the best. Actually b6 better apparently, but it's now very tough. All sorts of problems. This was played. Magnus takes en passant. Bellows it in his best French accent. Didn't even say en croissant. King recaptures, rook takes, and you're threatening not just check, but mate. So that's why rook takes on d4 was played. King takes, this knight hopping about, but this is an absolutely done game. Not a Beck's dead as a doornail. The rook outlasts the knight. It's about to move, or else you lose the piece, and then you can win a pawn with check. King steps in, maybe don't step there because you run into this, but okay, you get the idea. White's doing really well, gonna convert this one. So Magnus advances. We'll have a look at his final in a minute against JKD, but first let's jump to Hikaru. They're in a different group stage, 4 groups, one goes through from each group. Now we see this, the bishop developing, Italian game, but Hikaru makes it a bit weird here by playing this pawn f4. King's Gambit-y, Vienna hybrid variation, doesn't even recapture, and his opening just goes terrible. But it's kind of what you want in a must-win game. He's got more time with white, but he has to win. You take me, I take you. Alireza, after bishop d2, now finds the excellent, completely winning knight g4. Still no pieces captured here, but it's just deadly. Slamming down in here, and if you take here, saying, okay, you take me, I take you, well, black doesn't have to do that. You can check from down here. g3 forced, or else you were getting mated there. This is how the game goes, and black is attacking without even being material down. This is nuts. So we come back. No knight takes. Instead, we saw knight e4, setting up the tension here. We see knight e3 in response, hitting the queen, and now after she moves, takes with check. I mean, Hikaru's opening is absolutely appalling, but watch how he fights back. Alireza's killing it, of course, but after queen d5, rook takes on g7, he doesn't find the best continuation, which is queen takes here. Looks really scary, because white takes, hits the rook. But you can take this rook. Yes, this drops, but the king can move, and black is just winning. It's all she wrote. But no queen takes pawn. We saw castles. Hikaru does this. Alireza doesn't want the exchange. He wants to attack. Queen and knight working together. But now crash through here. Pawn b6. And apparently, upon king f2, white stands a little better. But h3 covers this square, understandable. The king gets on its running shoes, and now the best way to play is apparently queen a4 check, but black still standing better. This check doesn't actually lead anywhere. King runs away, something like this. But in the game, Hikaru makes the blunder, knight g5. Looks amazing because you're crashing through to f7 with the rook and knight converging. But there's a check. Now the king takes here. You could actually take in the corner. You can survive this attack. It's not actually a big deal. You can defend like this from afar. Queen a7. You're not actually getting mated because black then starts counter-attacking. But this is hard to calculate. No time added back. So Alireza goes for this. We get this exchange of queens now in this tactical manner. And when the smoke clears, there's a problem. Because the rook slams back, hits the knight, and you can't go here. Pawn takes, you can't go here, or you step into this pin. Nothing to be done. Piece is dropping off. So in the game, Hikaru plays this to undermine the knight here. This is how the game transpired. And although Alireza's got a piece that Hikaru hasn't got, Hikaru has a lot of pawns. He starts playing with them now, pushing forward, gaining space, gobbling that one. Yes, they're doubled, but still, this becomes now a time game. Hikaru's about a minute and a half ahead, and watch Alireza's clock just start bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. Really impressive, knowing that Alireza is one of the fastest players in the world here. He's advancing those pawns, blunder as we see, knight attacks, defended, check, king back, but you couldn't keep repeating. This is the problem. You need to win. So Hikaru goes for the knight, but look at that. The butt flap falls out of the evaluation because the knight now saves itself. This was a mate in 1, or 2 rather. That would have been nice. Step anywhere, you're mated. Pawn's not helping you. But missed low on time. Instead we get this. And once more, Alireza has got to desperately fight not to lose on time. This is how the game proceeded here. He does keep his extra piece, but he's still a pawn down. King running around. Hikaru still fighting hard. And now, after this, and rook back here, Alireza starts to bring the bind. Because he keeps bringing around the pieces, advances the b pawn. Eventually Hikaru brings around the rook once more. He's checking, but he's soon lulled into a trap where he takes a pawn he shouldn't take. Alireza's now down to about 20 seconds. If Hikaru keeps bouncing around, doing some weird stuff, who knows what happens with the time. But he takes on b4, allowing this, trapping the rook in here, and there's a problem. Once it leaves the board, easy draw, Alireza advances to the next stage, and it brings us now to the Group D final here. It's Magnus with white, Jan Krzysztof here playing black, and wow, we get a Catalan named after the chess playing cat Alan, but I have never seen it played like this. After the check, does Magnus take back the pawn? No. He does this. Fine, a6, about to support. Surely you take. No. He plays this. Oh, okay. Now if you do this, takes, win a rook. Very nice. So you're still stopping b5. So c5 played. Surely now you take. No. He plays bishop f4. Knight d5. Forks these two. Now you take. Maybe this is the idea. Mangled structure. But no. Knight takes on d5. Who does that? Cementing the center, setting up a pawn cube, aka a pube, one of the most overpowered formations in chess. But it's not a white pawn here. It's not a black pube and a white pube. It's actually a mostly black pube. And that's weird, because after the 000 and pawn b5, look at the clump. It kicks back the queen. I have never seen this opening before. So provocative. How can you possibly give black this big black centre and still live to tell the tale? Apparently knight b6 best, but bishop b7 is played, and Magnus now chucks another pawn. Only move not to be dead. Pawn e4. This is some deep prep. I don't know how he does it when he doesn't even regularly play. Maybe this is some old world championship prep. If you take another pawn, And there's knight g5. Apparently white is better here somehow. If you try and hold on again, then there's this. Knight f6 best apparently. And then d5. I mean, we've got to stop here. It's simply way too complicated for me. You know, what happens if you take another pawn? I'm just intrigued now. Bishop takes on e4. Obviously, you just keep sacrificing pieces here. Try and kill the king. Let's stop there because it is way too nuts. This is some serious opening prep. Duda just wants to get his king safe. Understandable. Now Magnus takes, castles, rook HE1 and bishop f6 now pressures this centre and long diagonal. It's nice chess. Duda loving it if Magnus would take here and he could hop, but not so obliging. We get bishop d6, goes for the rook, and if you save that one, then there's takes, queen takes, and pawn takes on c5. And suddenly, it's white with these connected, advanced pawns here, supported by everything, very dangerous. So no rook e8. Instead, we saw this takes in the centre here. Knight takes on d4 from Magnus. He couldn't live with those central pawns, so he ignores the rook. Bishop takes on d4. Rook recaptures, and you can technically save the rook here. It's the engine's top move. Something like this. And queen takes, queen e4. White stands a little better with this centralized aggressive pawn. Okay, not played. We get queen f6. Materials being restored now, by the way. Not the best move apparently, because Magnus can do this. Not only dodge the attack of the queen, but threaten mate. And after h6, he now picks up this exchange. Rook recaptures, queen tickled once more. She dives into d6 and the rook re-centralizes, supporting this pawn. What's Duda's point? Well, he wants to get at this king. He's got the 3-on-2 majority here. Watch how the game transpires, because boy does he drum up some incredible play. Magnus first hits him with a brilliancy. Too much pressure on the centre. It's about to collapse. So we do see takes. Sheds this exchange here, or the exchange was already down, sorry, but takes some pieces off the board. Leaves Magnus an exchange ahead. And after bishop h3, this queen diving in, leave the ladies on the board. You've got to attack. The game now gets razor sharp. Rook d1 apparently best, but Magnus rook lifts. He loves it and he's setting a trap. If you take the pawn offered, well, you can just simply trap that queen. You could check first or play it straight away, and the queen's actually got nowhere to go. It's about to get munched. That's all she wrote. So you can't touch the pawn. Now we see bishop e6, queen d6 from Magnus, about to say Duda. Still you can't take the pawn. Pawn c3 is therefore played, a real desperate randomizer, but is it any good? Yes, your rook is getting kicked about. Yes, this pawn's now advancing, looking to rip open the king. It's such incredible, enterprising play, but after takes, queen e1 check, this lady calmly slides back and covers the king. Now Duda takes a pawn on f2, takes here, queen e3 check, king b1, and bishop takes, supported by the queen, hitting the white one. This is getting incredibly tense. Queen f1 is played, check. Now the king goes to the corner, and if you play something like g6, queen d5, it holds a balance here because the black king is safe enough for now, and the white king, so exposed, gives black enough counterplay for lots of perpetual check ideas. But queen c2 was played, and it's a huge blunder because Magnus can now check. He forces the king to step here, and then can you find the winning move for white? It's queen b1, forcing these queens off the board. Really is just positionally beautiful, this game, as well as the tactical brilliance. By the way, mentioned it the other day. If you haven't yet checked out Chess with Cards, have a look at the link in the description. QR code up on screen as well. Where's my little book? This little book is the kind of thing you can get your hands on. Really, really nice. Positional ideas, helping you understand how Magnus and the top guys see the game. You can get it as a book, you can get it as a card set, delivered to you as cards, or you can print the cards yourself. very, very cool little chess product if you're learning or teaching, either or. Let's crack on with the game though, because Magnus now brings in the king and Duda's in serious doo-doo, because this pawn's advancing. Dude looks like a lady soon, and that is all she wrote. Duda resigned. The rook's too powerful against the bishop with the passed pawn. King's marching in. There's nothing more to be said. Excellent win by Magnus. He advances on to the quarterfinals, I think he is, and it's like Arjun, Aronian, Magnus, and someone else who's made it through to those quarters. Alireza. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks very much for watching, and have a look at the video on screen if you want to see another incredible game of epic chess. Thanks a lot, and see you soon. Cheers.